Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about aging with style and attitude. Join us as we share our thoughts, the things we've learned, and the things we'll be practicing after reading the book, French Women Don't Get Facelifts. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about aging with style and attitude. We're going to be discussing the last chapter in the book we've been reading, French Women Don't Get Facelifts by Mirrelle Guillano. And each month since March of this year, we've been doing one or two chapters from the book. And as with all our book episodes, you do not need to be reading the book to enjoy this episode. So join us as we explore how to be comfortable in your own skin, seeing ourselves as we really are, and developing a plan for aging. And I'm so proud of us. We have finished this book.
Yay, we did so good.
And it's been enjoyable. I mean, I don't usually read nonfiction, so this is a good way for me to read it. Reading a little bit, then discussing, then reading some more.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a fun chapter because we kind of get to sum up what have we talked about? What are our takeaways? What are we going to be doing? So, Julie, we're on chapter 13. That's the last chapter. So do you want to give us kind of a chapter summary?
All right, I'll try.
Okay.
So chapter 13, after we've heard from her for the past 12 chapters, the title of this chapter is Now What? So she's kind of summing everything up and then giving us some things to look to, for the future. And she starts off the book with a little French phrase called peu à peu, which means little by little. And she said, it means like if you're keeping a list, you can add items to the list after you cross off the actions you've already implemented, which I totally do. I like to see where I've been and where I'm going. And she said it's just important for her to keep a balanced checklist. And I think her point after reading the first section is just to, aging with attitude means living in the moment, living in the present, because oftentimes our memories fade as we get older. She talks about a 94-year-old friend, and then keeping an inner eye on the future as well. And, and I think when she's talking about living in the moment, she used the word trade-offs of future. She used the phrase trade-offs of future rewards against relatively instant gratification. Like, what are we waiting for? And I don't think she means it in a purely hedonistic way, like live like there's no tomorrow, because obviously she's saying prepare for tomorrow, but she is just saying to notice the now, the sunsets, she mentions the slice of carrot cake, the the flowers, the people you're with. So I appreciated that part.
Yeah, I had that underlined, and she says, what are you waiting for? And it could be a vacation trip, cosmetic surgery, buying that piece of jewelry you've always wanted. As we get older, we do, not in a hedonistic way, like you said, but just in a practical way, we have to think, well, what are we waiting for? Like when you're in your 30s, you could say, okay, well, I'm going to put that off for 10 years. But when you're in your 50s, it's kind of like, okay, well, how long are you going to put it off? Maybe you need to start peu à peu, little by little, checking off some of the things that you're hoping to accomplish because your time does get shorter.
Yeah.
I
know. I appreciate because this whole book, she's asked us to look at what we have, basically take inventory. Now, what can you do? And so while she does have, a balanced approach, she has asked us to take inventory of where we are. And I'll go ahead and mention this also in the book. She kind of jokes that she wrote a gardening book, and that basically it's almost like, our bodies are similar to gardening. If you're growing fruits, vegetables, plants, that there's kind of constant work of taking inventory of the garden, weeding, looking, checking, what do I have, what's going on? And sometimes, you need professional help if you find that you're dealing with diseases or, things are out of control, or, maybe you need a little bit more help if there's some heavy lifting to do. So it's a daily thing though to garden. If you've ever had a garden, especially if you're trying to eat from your garden, it takes constant attention. And that's what she's asking us to do really with our bodies and our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I appreciate it because gardening also involves dreaming and imagination. Like when you plant that little seed or that tiny little plant, you don't want it to stay like that. You're envisioning this full blooming plant, with all these pretty colors and smells and everything. So it's, I think every gardener envisions the final,
Yes.
what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's life-giving. Its purpose is life-giving. And both with gardening and with taking care of ourselves, it's to live life better and to be more filled. So looking at that approach, I appreciated that metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it made me think too. This is not in the book, but I don't know. A friend always quoted the law of the harvest, and you reap what you sow, and you always reap later than you sow, and you reap more than you sow, and that can be good or bad. It could go for good things or bad things. But I think that's important. The fact that you reap later than you sow is important at our age because, again, what are you waiting for? It's gonna,
Right.
you might have to plan and wait on a few things. So get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does talk about dreaming and thinking about the future. And one of the things that I like, she said, to fight against aging is, if at all possible, not to renounce to anything. And so it's kind of awkward the way she said that, but I think her thing is, don't rule anything out. Like, don't rule out work, don't rule out travel, don't rule out shows or books, or don't rule out dreaming. Like, just, I think you've talked about this before, Mindy, like older people, you've noticed in your life that their focus just becomes more narrow, and they've cut out this part and this thing and said, well, I can't do that and I can't do that. And I think that makes you older.
Right. Instead of, saying no so much and adding to your list of no's, you're trying to find a way to say yes.
And one more poignant quote I thought that she had was that she was talking about, like, as we get older, well, this is how I took it. It said that she had a friend that had been an extensive world traveler, and she said that it wasn't failed memory that made this friend's later memories less vivid or meaningful, but it was that the later experiences were more in and of the moment. And I think that's a good perspective because we're not always going to be jetting across the world, but that doesn't mean that we can't be enjoying living in the moment and still making good memories. They're just going to be more of an experience that we're having right now and of the moment. And I was thinking about your mom living with you, Julie, and she's gotten to the point in her life where she is not like planning or doing as many things as she always used to do. And I think from the outside, like when we get to that point, we think, oh, well, how depressing that will be. But on the other hand, she is living with her daughter. She does get to experience her grandson's life right there in the home. Like, there are, she still is able to go to church and hang out with her friends. Like, there are things right in and of the moment, and you can't say, well, now I can't jet off to Italy. Like, you can still have a meaningful life with what you're able to do at that time.
True. That's very true. And the fact that, if you did get to jet off to Italy in the past, that's still meaningful too. You know what I mean? Like, you don't like you said, you don't always have to keep doing the same thing that, Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get down to this list that she had. Okay, so this is so helpful because when I thought about trying to summarize what I've learned in this book, I draw an immediate blank. I can't think of one thing. But so she kind of has a refresher checklist of about 50 simple or not so simple questions that we can kind of think about that kind of encompass what we've talked about or learned about in this book. And so we're not going to talk about all 50, but there are kind of ways to jumpstart what we want to say about the book or what we maybe started doing for ourselves. So let's kind of just dive in there. The first question was, what does my appearance say to people I meet? And if you go back and listen to our first episode, that kind of was like our jumping off point. And I can't say that I have like completely revamped myself, but it is a good reminder of like, what impression are you given?
Yeah, it's always good to have that in the back of your mind. Yeah, just to be aware.
Yeah.
And dovetailing with that is, how can I look the best for my age and with what I have? So Mindy, you said earlier, like, take what you have and what can you do with it? And like, are we maximizing that?
Right. Because I think there needs to be a balance here, like to be confident of what you're doing with your outward self, and your inward self. So really, like, to live your life, what do you functionally need to wear to, get through the tasks that are at your hand? What do you do for work? Well, if you're wearing scrubs every day, so, how can you present yourself with that? And then, because there's things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so also just being confident with who you are as well. But I think it says something about you to take care of the little things, and then also just being able to look the best for your age. I appreciate that caveat, for your age. Like, it kind of made me laugh, but also, to be aware we are aging. That is a beautiful thing. We're very grateful to be able to age. And so my laugh lines, I think I'm like, yep, they're going to see them all. Like, they're there. I've earned them, and I'm going to keep making them deeper.
Yeah, that's a good attitude.
Yeah, I appreciated that she had the qualifier. Like, do I look the best I can for my age? Like, there are things that you could do that would make it worse, And we talked about some of those. Like, does your clothing style suit your age? And you? Is it time to retire the bikini, the high heels? Lots of different things, different for different people at different ages. But those are all things to think about.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I know I appreciated this because as we talk about some of these questions, like when I thought back to going through this entire book, before I went to look at my notes, I tried to kind of separate, well, what did I take away? What did I incorporate into my daily life? And I think that's one of the things is like utilizing what was already in my closet, but also taking the time to put on a cute outfit, taking the time to get out of my workout clothes and use what I already had. So it kind of gave me permission to wear the cute stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought about that. We talked about that. Like, Julie tries to use every opportunity kind of, wherever she's going to put on something that she likes and wants to wear. And yeah, we have to take advantage of those opportunities.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, if I'm going out where other people will see me, that's my opportunity.
Okay.
Because I don't mean like just in the neighborhood walking my dog, because I would be in sweats. I would be in my, jogger pants and my sweatshirt forever.
Right.
But it's like, okay, if I'm going to meet a group of ladies, then I can do this differently.
Right.
and it's fun. It doesn't have to be stressful. That can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love what she said, and this is really true. I loved the gardening analogy because I tried to find all the different ways that they compare. When she said a mature garden really requires way more effort in cultivating than a new one, and that was one of the things about like finding a newer house is I wanted all the plants to be tiny.
Oh,
because I thought I have a better handle on them. Like I can keep them small. It's always harder to take something big and cut it back and prune it. And,
Yeah.
So I thought that's really true in midlife too. Like a 20-year-old going out in their sweatshirt and flip-flops really can look cute, but maybe I would look like I'm not trying.
Right.
Yep. You would look like a Walmart meme.
Yeah. Like I need a little more effort here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that she also had a section like on just talking about taking care of your body as far as exercise and things like that. And one of the things was, what am I doing to maintain erect posture? And I feel like I'm always trying to remember, put your shoulders back, sit up, because it's so easy to just like slump and you just naturally kind of fall into that posture. It's so comforting and cozy. And I don't know, like sometimes I'll catch like a picture of myself or I'll glance at myself in the mirror and I'm like, that's not how I want to look.
I know. I've thought about that. There's a couple of things I've incorporated in teaching my fitness classes that have come from the book that I'm now incorporating in teaching others. I was doing them myself, but I thought we need to actually put this as a part of the class. And one of those is posture. Someone actually complimented me on my posture not long ago, and it really took me by surprise, but I'm constantly thinking about it. It's almost like me constantly drinking water. Like it really is. But you know what? Bad posture is debilitating. It will hurt you in the end. And so it actually relieves the spine and stretches out the shoulders, and it helps you breathe better. So in class, we're working on posture when we're in a wall sit, we're taking inventory of ourselves, and we're also breathing together. She talks about breathing, and it's a little kind of silly, but once you start thinking about all the things you need to breathe well for, it really is throughout our lives. Learning to breathe, slower heart rate, recover is really a skill. So those are some takeaways that I thought these are actually important lessons that seem so trivial, so little, but they're so life-giving.
Yeah. I thought too, another gardening analogy is like good gardeners prune. And I thought about what things we need to let go of, and that could fit into attitudes, like what attitudes don't help us age well,
Right.
Bitterness and unforgiveness and just apathy and, and any other, it's just a good time to look at what are some things I could let go of.
That's where you want a new garden again, Julie, because in a mature garden, think about how big and gnarly those roots are. And if you've developed a bad attitude over the last 40 years, you can do it, but it's some heavy digging and intentional work to get rid of those well-worn paths. So let's all have a new garden in terms of good attitude.
One of her questions was, what is in my control that can improve my health and short-term and long-term? And my diet is a bad thing, a deeply rooted thing I need to change and let go of. I feel like that's something that can be pruned, and I'm working on it. So
right.
I know you really loved when we talked about the food chapter. How many food colors am I eating in a day? Has that still been helpful for you?
Yeah, because it's such an easy visual. I don't have to know necessarily what's in it and how many antioxidants and this. I just know it's good if it's colorful and, colorful and natural. But
she also talks kind of about your circle of friends. And we've talked about, we've had different episodes on friendships in midlife and various times throughout the podcast. But that's also something that we can take inventory of. It says, do I work at maintaining a circle of friends of various ages? Do I have close relationships? She had different questions on that. And I think, do I have fulfilling relationships? Like, that's always something at any age that we should kind of be cognizant of and be aware of.
Yes.
Take stock. Back on food, one of her questions was, is cooking at home so vital? And if I eat out, how should I eat? And I thought, okay, good gardeners feed and water. So I need to pay more attention about feeding and watering. And so I am cooking at home more. And I've actually kind of found it enjoyable, which I can't believe I'm saying. But it's almost like the more you learn about food and in your body, it's kind of like you become a little bit in awe of it, like how it works and trying to get better food. And like I've started making some bread and bagels and, I don't know, something oddly feels good about it.
I'm glad you said that. And if I could piggyback off that really quick, that healthy lifestyle is very enjoyable. It's life-giving. It's a joyful pursuit. And after you do maybe the heavy lifting of digging up some roots, of pruning, of taking inventory, of developing, a realistic plan that you enjoy and that gives you things to work on, it really is an enjoyable pursuit. And it helps you live life better. And it becomes fun to find the foods, that make you feel good. And even a series of exercises or stretches or activity, things that you enjoy. And so I think that's the key is not so much of fighting against yourself, but learning, what do I like and what makes me feel good and what makes me live life better. And then that becomes very enjoyable and it becomes a restful activity. You can rest in it once you have done the work. And so I appreciate that it's just life-giving and you're not working so hard at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yes,
resting
it does
in it.
take some work, but I'm trying to
Mhm.
give myself grace and patience with that, like not putting a timeline on it. Like I have to figure this out this week or this month.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, just letting it take its time. And I've kind of seen it as a challenge in a game almost. It's like a puzzle.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of fun.
One thing she asked us to think about was what gets you up in the morning and what will get you up in the morning in the years to come. And
Mhm.
right now, I don't have a trouble facing the day, but I have read some books, like from the perspective of older people, like fiction books, and it seems like as you get older, you could fall into, well, what do I need to wake up early for? What do I have going on today? Or my day is an exact replica of yesterday. Or I think like just thinking like what is getting you up in the morning. It doesn't have to be like you're out there saving the world, but do you have things that get you out of bed and moving and started on your day, and then kind of it can flow from there?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that she says what will get me up in the morning in the years to come because it'll change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
Right.
little scary for me because I think what if what gets me up now is lost or
Mm-hmm.
taken away?
Mm-hmm.
Like how will I be prepared for that? What am I doing now that's meaningful, kind of that inner work that
Right.
the part of me that won't change, because my external circumstances will likely change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a heavy, heavy thing to think about.
It is heavy. And this kind of goes back to the friendships that you're cultivating. And I appreciate she brought up different ages, cultivating different age friends. And so something that I feel that I have become more aware of is I have a lot of women in their 70s in my life. And it's really joyful to me, but I have been more aware and open and building relationships with those women more than ever before, and finding out what they do to lead a healthy life. I'm like, how are you so joyful? And I know they have been through a lot, but that has been eye-opening for me to develop friendships with women that are quite a bit older, 50s, 60s, and like I said, the 70s. They're living life. Like they've got a handle on it. And I'm like, how do I get there? How can I do that?
Well, that goes along with her, statement that I said earlier. Am I maintaining a circle of friends of various ages? Because that does give you great perspective on what to expect and how to be successful as you do age.
Yes.
Yeah, it gives you hope.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
What will be my third act or act 3.5? I hate these questions, but she did have good things to think about. I can't remember exactly what chapter that was, but I do think it's always important to periodically take stock of, well, what are some goals? They don't have to be life-changing, but what are some things you'd like to achieve, or what are some things you'd like to be involved with, or what do you see yourself doing in 5 or 10 years, or where would you like to be? Like, what would be the steps that you'd have to get there? Like, maybe you want to live in a different city, or you want to own a beach house, or you want to, I don't know, run an ultra marathon. I don't know what it is, but to kind of think about, well, what would be the steps that I would need to get there at this point in my life?
Yeah, I do remember she didn't focus, it could be work. It didn't have to be a paying job. It could just be something meaningful, helping someone else, volunteering or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciated that question because again, gardeners are aware of the seasons. Like gardeners are more aware of seasons than just about anybody else. Like there's different needs in different seasons. So
well, and I think that's one of the joys of aging is learning that this too shall pass. And, that is a biblical wisdom truth statement. And so we are all believers here as we talk. And so there's so much that we can tie back into God's word with this. But I really liked the question, what will your third act be, your 3.5? Because it made me feel so young. I feel like I'm going into maybe the second part. Bryce and I are kind of going into this second part of our lives. Like we've been married a long time. We're getting closer to that empty nest. And I'm like, gosh, we're coming up on just 2 and there's 3.5. Like we got all kinds of time left. And so it made me laugh. It made me feel really young. It made me really appreciate where I'm at in life. and that there's more, and we're not defined by one season or another, but that there's opportunity in each of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's room to change and reinvent yourself and go a different direction, and there's room for that in the future. And also it kind of goes back to, what are you waiting for? Like, now's the time.
Well, and it also, for me, goes back to, I want to take care of myself now to develop the foundation for the second act, for the third act. I want to be able to live life well, years to come. So I want to be working now. I want to stay flexible now. I want to be able to be healthy now so that I'm healthy then. So kind of making sure the groundwork is ready for life to come.
Yeah, I think that was a constant theme through the book, was not just living longer, but living well. If you're going to live longer, you want it to be well.
Yes,
you do.
And, we don't always have control over that, but we can do what we can do.
Yes.
Right. Do you have some me time programmed into every day? Are you overdue for a vacation? I think we all said that we don't really struggle with me time, but I loved that she gave permission and that that's a needed thing in people's lives.
Right.
It's not just like self-indulgent. It's actually, what do you enjoy? And it kind of goes along with her other one, which is, what's your idea of play? Like, what do you enjoy? Like, incorporate things that you enjoy in your life.
I love her question. What's my idea of play? And then she says, okay, what's my other idea of play? I'm assuming she means like we don't really have that many ideas, one or two. And I did check that question as something that I would ask myself again, because I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, maybe when we did this chapter, that I didn't feel like I was doing very well on that, which is appropriate for where I am. But I can kind of see that coming back.
I think
after my trip,
making your own bread and bagels can be a form of play. I mean, if you're enjoying that and you're researching that and you're enjoying kneading the bread and doing it, that is a form of play. I feel like you have a lot of forms of play that you might not recognize as play, because you are a very creative person.
Yes.
I mean, you might not be rolling around on the floor laughing, but you are enjoying what you're doing.
Maybe rolling around on the floor laughing. I should incorporate that into my workout class. Can you get back up? No.
What was that yoga that we said? Or no, laugh yoga or something? Yeah, where you have to pretend to be laughing.
Yes.
Yeah, you might not be doing that, but you're still quietly enjoying your activity.
Yeah. And that was another question, was, have I laughed today? So important. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think especially if you're home by yourself or not talking to a lot of people, it's easy for me to go without laughing.
Right.
Like if Steve's traveling and I'm home by myself, like it's easy to go without laughing. You almost have to seek laughter out. So Julie, you had talked about,
that's when you need the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you might look at certain things that you know are funny on the internet, or certain TV shows or whatever, because by yourself, it can be hard to find something to laugh about.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I laugh at myself because I feel like I'm always doing something dorky or weird, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was dumb. So, I mean, you could just look at yourself too for whatever entertainment you need.
You could, for sure.
Well, one thing she mentioned, she said, do I have a spiritual life?
Okay.
And I know we all do, but I think it's always good to examine it. And along the garden metaphor, Jesus said, I'm the vine and you're the branches, and we don't bear fruit disconnected from him. And so I think that's always a good evaluation, is what's my walk with Jesus like, and am I meeting with him daily and, in his word?
Yeah, because that's our foundation. Like, that's why we can laugh at the days to come. We're not afraid. If we're resting and trusting and surrendering in the Lord, we know that even if life changes, even if the floor falls out, life can change in a moment. But God is faithful, and he's there, and he's in every day, and he has a plan and a purpose. And so while we may not understand, when things happen, why they happen. We can rest in him and have confidence in his relationship. But his word guides us and it helps us live. And his mercies are new every morning. And when I wake up with a bad attitude, that's where I run. I go to his word. I'll go to the Psalms. I have a worship playlist that tries to help get my mind kind of ready, but every day it's very daily. And this is the weeding. This is where the weeding comes, because anytime we're disappointed, disillusioned, surprised, terrified, I always bring that back and try to surrender that to the Lord to kind of get his eyes and his ears and look for him to kind of come in and bring peace again.
I think that's an analogy of renewing your mind, replacing, like we've talked about even in Happy School, replacing those disappointing thoughts, what's missing, negative, with truth. And grief, like I've mentioned before, grief share has been really helpful for me. And last night we talked about hope and hope for the future. Like, what is that? Like, before the tragic thing happened in your life, what did you think of hope? And for a lot of us, it was just kind of wishing, but, they reminded us that it's confident expectation for the future based on God's character, not the future.
Right.
It's like who God is. And I'm coming up on the 1-year anniversary of John's death. And I just thought about how, I can't even believe I'm here where I am after a year. This day last year, I just could not envision what this year was going to be like, how I would make it, where I would be, how I would do anything. And God has just been very faithful, and people have been very faithful. And, he's provided and protected, and there's been a lot of good things and joys in the middle of it. And that, to me, that's what hope is. And, early on, I didn't have much of that. So just even that I can say that is just transformative.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we started this book, it was probably hard to even think about aging alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, even just to examine this topic once a month, I'm sure has brought up difficult things. So yeah, it is. Well, one of the things she talks about is looking at other women who are aging with attitude. She says that we can probably think of different people in our lives that are aging with attitude, or you can think about celebrities. I honestly can't think of any celebrities that I look at and think, oh, I hope I age just like them, because my life is not like theirs. So I don't have access to the same tools they have, the same chef they have, the same trainer they have. Like, it's not applicable to my everyday life. But if I was going to look at people ahead, I would probably say like a lot of the women that I've met on the pickleball court this year that are out there just living life, and you would never know maybe their age, and they're still running around and enjoying, like, physically, I hope I age like that. Like, I hope I'm still able to do physical things.
Yes.
I hope that I still have, a good attitude and a happy, hopeful attitude toward life. And I can't really think of any celebrities, but did you guys think of any celebrities?
Well, the very first person she mentioned was Queen Elizabeth II, and I did have to agree with that. I thought, she was just so dignified. She never really made her opinion known. She was a little bit mysterious. She was very pragmatic, yet she had a great sense of humor. And we've talked about all those things. Like, I feel like she was the whole package, maybe minus the fashion sense.
Okay.
Maybe, she can't be everything.
That's
right. I did, as far as well-known people, I agreed with her on that. And as far as like actresses, she mentioned Helen Mirren, and I thought I can agree with that. Like,
yeah,
she's got lines on her face, and
love her.
I don't know anything about her personal life and her attitude, but she comes across as having a good attitude about aging, and she's willing to take on these roles of older women and does it well, and proudly does it. She doesn't try to be younger than she is. So I appreciate that about her.
Okay. I love her too so much, Julie. I don't know anything else about her, but she seems so sassy and so smart and cheeky. Like her style, her fashion sense, her hair, her makeup. Like I love that she's an assassin in the Red movies. Like that brings me so much joy. I'm like, that is amazing. But again, I'm just talking about like an actress that I see that's older. I'm like, she's so cool. But Marie, I totally agree with you. I looked at the women that I am interacting with in my own life, the 70-year-old women that come to my classes. They inspire me. They truly inspire me. They're doing hard things and they're showing up and they're the most consistent and they're positive and joyful. I know like every once in a while, one will talk to me after class. I mean, there's like 4 of them. One will mention after class something that they're going through and they know that I'm a praying woman and they'll say, hey, will you pray for, this person for me? And I'm like, yes. And we genuinely have a friendship, and I know I will ask them to pray for things as well. And so just watching them show up, watching them do hard things with their bodies, seeing their muscle tone and their pursuit of just being healthy. They want to play with their grandkids, and it's amazing to me. They're just trying to live their life to the fullest.
Yeah. I thought about too, like people that have suffered, deeply, like I guess they're kind of my people right now, just because if they've done it well. There's a lot of people that maybe haven't done it well, but people that have been transformed by it and then comfort and help other people, that they've not let it get the best of them and they've kind of come through the fire. Like that's very inspiring to me. And and I have friends that, people at church come up to me and people do share more about what they've been through when they know what you've been through.
Right.
And so I appreciate all those connections that have kind of been made through my suffering. But as far as well-known people, one that I really enjoy listening to is Johnny Erickson Tata. She was the girl that dove into the water and was paralyzed. I still think of her as that girl. And when I see her, I'll listen to her. She is 75 years old. So she has been paralyzed from the neck down for over 50 years. And she always has a smile on her face. And I just can't imagine how many people she's helped and inspired. And she's even had cancer. Like it just, lots of suffering, but you would not, other than her physical appearance,
right.
I don't know. It's just amazing, like what she's been through and how she still gives glory to God and is happy. Did she want the life she has? No. But she's taken it and accepted it and made the best of it. And that's just amazing to me. So to me, she's probably to age in those circumstances. Right. I just can't imagine 50 years in that situation.
Yeah, that really is amazing. I mean, I remember seeing the movie about her when I was a kid. So she's been inspiring people for decades.
Yeah.
All right. Well, overall, I really enjoyed this book, French Women Don't Get Facelifts. I think that we've talked about a lot of good issues, and it's helped me to kind of articulate some of my thoughts on aging, but I may not have really verbalized them before or come up with a checklist or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
There.
Nice and lighthearted inventory.
Yes. Listeners, we would love to know what you think of this book. We'd love to know if you've been reading it, what you've gotten out of it, what some of your takeaways are. You can find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, we want to do I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a new workout legging that I have fallen in love with. And I really was on the hunt for a new pair of workout leggings because they really need to do some heavy lifting. I will put these to use, and they need to do a lot. They need to stay up. They need to have just a little bit of compression. They need to not be see-through. They need to be soft. And my most recent request was that they would have a side pocket so I could put my phone in them again.
Yeah.
Like if I'm walking. And so I have found that legging. I love them. And they are by Athleta. They are called the Salutation Stash High Rise 7/8 Legging. So there's the long name for you. I will share the link. But I learned about these from my friend Jennifer. And I just didn't know what to even try. Like I was trying on leggings everywhere. So it really took me getting a recommendation for them because they cost a lot. And I'm willing to invest if they can do all the things I really need them to do, because I wear them for work and then also play. And I'm wearing these around town. So they need to actually look nice. So I was willing. I love these.
Yeah. That kind of goes along with our aging book when you say, like, I need good leggings. Okay.
Yes.
When you're 25 and your body already looks awesome, then you can probably get away with the Amazon dupe. But if you're 55, the dupe may not be doing it for you, and you might just need to go right to the original source. And so I kind of feel that way. Like, even if it's more expensive, it's got more to do.
Listen, it stays up. I'm not yanking them. They hide cellulite. They look good. All right. They actually do a great job.
We're willing to pay for that.
I'm willing to pay for that.
The older garden needs more cultivating.
Yes.
The older garden needs more money.
Right. It does.
They run specials, so don't be scared off by the price. You can get these cheaper. Just watch for sales.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, I'm a fan of a recipe. And this is a butternut couscous bowl with maple vinaigrette. And it's a bowl with couscous, kale, crispy chickpeas that you've roasted. And you've roasted the butternut squash. And it has some goat cheese in it and little crunchy pumpkin seeds. And you make this dressing with maple syrup. And it is so good. So the first night we had it with grilled chicken on it. And then the next day I had it cold for lunch. And actually I thought it was better cold. I didn't think it would be, but it really was. The kale isn't cooked. It's just massaged with the dressing.
Okay.
Now that makes a whole difference. It's almost like you've wilted it and cooked it just by like taking your hands in the bowl and just rubbing the dressing in. It totally changes the texture of the kale.
That's interesting.
And then the next night we just had it again with salmon on it. So my son said, Mom, can you just make this every week? Because it kind of just stays in the fridge and it makes a good amount. So we had it three meals, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
And it's not hard to make because you're just roasting in the oven. The kale's not even cooked. The dressing's like 3 or 4 ingredients. So
all right.
It's really, really good.
Julie. Very good.
And goat cheese makes everything better.
You could put goat cheese on a cracker or whatever, and I'm going to eat it. I mean, it's delicious. I love goat cheese. Okay. I'm a fan this week of a store that I hadn't probably gone in, I don't know, at least 5 years. Kirkland's. Like, you know how stores can come around again? So I needed some mirrors. Well, I wanted to try, you know how people have nightstands and lamps in their bedrooms and then they'll put like a mirror behind each lamp. Yeah. And I wanted to do that. And I was looking online and Kirkland's actually had a really good selection. And then, they're always sending out 20% off coupons. And then they were having some clearance. And I don't know, like, I feel like if you just go on and like filter by their clearance items, a lot of times they're getting rid of some pretty decent things. Like I got this other mirror for upstairs in my hallway that I think it was regular like $225 or something on clearance for $50, and it's really big and heavy and very nice. And so I guess I would just give Kirkland's another try. I think I had kind of gotten out of the habit of going in there because it's always a lot of seasonal decor, and I don't like to buy a lot of seasonal decor because then I have to store it. But they do have things that you can use year round too.
So, Marie,
I've been in there with my mom again, and it was good because it seemed like it was kind of an 80s, 90s store,
Right.
But it's been updated.
Yeah.
Now, did you say you shopped online for their clearance?
Yeah.
That is a store I never think to shop online. That would actually make me shop more because
Right.
the heavy scent of potpourri when you walk in kills my sinuses.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I can't handle the smell.
Right. And the selection is better online. And then since these were bigger items, I just had them shipped to the store and then I just picked them up.
Oh, that's great. That will actually make me shop there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you actually shopped online or bought them, or you were just looking there and then went in the store. But that's so you don't pay shipping if they bring it to the store.
Right. And usually you don't even pay shipping if it shipped to your house either, if it's above a certain amount. But I just didn't want them delivering 3 mirrors, because then who's going to say like, oh, did I break it or did the delivery man? I just wanted to get it straight from the store and make sure that, because actually one of them did have a flaw and I ended up having to return it, and get a different one. But yeah, it was super easy. And then while I was in there, I went back to their clearance like shelves in the back and got some smaller things to like give away as hostess gifts and stuff. So, it's worth going in there again, especially as we're coming up on Christmas and you might need some ideas for people.
Wow. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Julie and Mindy, we have finished our book. And listeners, if you have any suggestions on what book you want us to read next, we are open. We have yet to decide. Open. We won't start another book until after the holidays, but we are open to suggestions. If you have a good one that you'd like to hear us discuss a chapter a month, send them in.
Oh, yeah. We need all the help we can get without sounding too desperate.
Right.
Give us your ideas.
Yeah, we'd love to hear some new, fresh ideas.
Yes.
All right, Julie and Mindy, we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.